Talk about a pretty boat. I think it's gonna be pretty darn cool. Okay, so there you get the idea. That way, panels are also mechanically fastened with the glue and the fillets. You can see where I've filleted inside the corner here. So between the fillets and the glue and everything else, this and the screws, this should be stupid strong. And that's the idea. Okay, I've prepped this surface. That now should come together and make for a fairly strong scarf joint. I laminated the seam, the double lap seam that I did, and you can see it's quite strong. So I'm setting up now to get the epoxy onto the frames. I have it tagged on the bow, and so I can reach into this frame and get epoxy on top of all the framing underneath it, and then unscrew at the front so that it lifts, and that way it'll come back down into the same screw holes. So here you can see better how I've propped it with a couple boards, planks up through the middle, and I'll have easy access then to spread the epoxy on the frames. And like I say, I'll lift the bow and then put epoxy under that. And then I got to crawl under there with a flashlight and clean up the squeeze out, which is why I made sure that I made my makeshift cart tall enough so that I can get under here. It has been a good height to assemble things and stuff, so that's the idea. The bottom is on. It is on and riddled and glued, and boy, did I have a fun time underneath filleting. That was, here I'm crawling around underneath here and having to duck under this section. And actually, I'm not that smart because I realized after, boy, I could have just gone in and out where the motor cut out and it would have been much easier. But anywho, I managed. I'm not that flexible, but I managed it. So I'll walk up on here and you can have a look around. So these are temporary screws that are in here for now. And yeah, here we go. There we go. What do you think of that? You do have to be careful how you lay this out, that you don't get it twisted. And the boat is looking nice and flat. The seam's strong, and it ended up being screwed down onto the onto this partial frame here. So it has contact, so that adds a little more strength to it. Okay, I'm just excited. This is a big stage. A little bit more, and I'll have myself a completed hull. Yay. All right. I need a 3-foot piece to add on here. Like I said, I had difficulty finding 4x8 sheets in 3/8 ply, and I wanted to keep the boat somewhat light. So I ended up getting 10-foot sheets. So these are actually a little longer than 10. But I'll have to get under here and mark this line. And I obviously can mark, so I'm not giving measurements for this piece. It's just line it up and mark from underneath, mark the line. And then when you trim it, it'll be near perfect. Now, the thing is, to get this piece to lay against this piece, you can see right here, there's a bit of a dip. So I'll just show you quickly what you can do about that. You can draw it down by, and you see actually more accurately, I'm drawing this up. So there's a bit of a gap, but a thickened epoxy in there will work just fine. Basically, it is bringing a lot of memories back from our Deanne's Rose. And this piece, by the way, you need to save the cutout, the leftover that you cut out from this side panel. Okay, I'm just fitting the side panel here. The outside was easy to mark. You'll notice, since I didn't put a bevel on the ply, it's actually 3/8 inch in on this side. I have to shove it a little over at the end there. I have to do a scarf yet and add a piece to the back. But basically a hand plane has fitted this. This will come down and it's actually pretty good now. You don't need perfection, but close. You want it close, right? So a hand plane to trim that up, but I marked it from underneath. Okay, mostly for my records here, hence the music and noise in the background. At any rate, that's my jig again that I made to make a double lap, not a triple. That's part of the jig, this part. But basically I run along here up against the edge of the jig, and then I step it up and run it along here up against this jig, this edge here. And that creates a double lap. So here we have the panel set in, at least the back half. I will have to pop up this section and get glue and do this because I did one half at a time. And there's one side almost done. Just the very front has to be done yet. So another look at MiniD. I added some tabbing to tag that where I had to adjust the up and down to have them mesh up. And yeah, so that's kind of the shape. Woohoo! And yeah, it's shaping together pretty good. I had to just adjust. I was a hair out on my angle here, so I trimmed off just a little off this edge to make sure I got this piece on properly. Yeah, a lot of what I'm going to do in the future. You'll figure it out when I get there, I guess. But MiniD is looking nice, and while progress always could be faster, when you're busy thinking what to do and how to do it, for the first time, it's always a bit slower. I just trimmed the overhang on there and on the bow, and then I'll get back to filling screw holes and whatnot. Did the bow as well. And you can see, because I didn't come all the way to the end, I'll have a couple little spots to fill, but that's perfectly fine. It'll be filled with epoxy, and it all has to be nicely rounded over. So that'll be part of the job now. I'll just sweep this down, go around, clean up these screw holes and fill them, and finish. I did part of the section down the side here because I ran out of time, but basically I just did a little fillet in here. So I'll carry on and do that on the rest. And there it is, pretty good, as you can see. So the view from up here, down on the hull, looking good. Back on the ground, couple little details. So you want to look where you have little sections, but if you look along it, it's very straight. So for a build like this, it's extremely straight. Now I do have, this sheet is a bit down compared to here, and it should be flush up here. So I was a little out on this corner. I shaved a bit too much. And all I have to do here is fill in with a bit of epoxy, thickened epoxy, and then that'll come out fine. So I'll do that. When that all hardens up, I go around and round all the edges, and then I'm ready to seal everything and fiberglass. So it's an exciting period, because basically this hull now will float. All the edges are rounded. There's a few spots that still need a bit of filling, like this area here. I'll do a little more filling. But first, I've mixed a batch of epoxy, and I'll go around and just seal everything. So yeah, she looks pretty darn good. Talk about a pretty boat. I guess I'm a little sentimental because I'm so reminded of Deanne's Rose, but this is, considerably smaller. It's only 6 foot by 14 feet versus 17 feet by 8 feet. So it's not as big, but I think it's going to be pretty darn cool. I was up walking on the 3/8 ply bottom, and it's solid and yeah, holds my weight quite nicely. So that's a good sign already. At any rate, yeah, I'll get on to sealing this. MiniD is looking nice.